pals, welcome back. It has been an unintentional minute. I wanted to film this video a while ago because I went home for spring break, was it? Yes, spring break, and I bought some books, I've read some books, and I've just haven't been able to catch you up on what I've been reading. But before we do that, I figured I would give you a roundup of what has been going on since we last saw each other, which I think was in February. Yes, yeah, I believe so. So my birthday came and went. It was super fun. We had a good old house party and just danced on the couch to Nelly Furtado, Promiscuous, best song on planet Earth. If you don't think so, you're wrong. Yeah, so danced to good old Nelly and just really enjoyed the company of my lovely friends. I've been cooking a lot with my pals here, which has been really nice. I had my first fake trial, going to fake court kind of vibe. Like we got to role play actual lawyers, which was really fun, but also really consuming, hence why I haven't had like a second really to sit down and talk to you. But yeah, it was super fun. The experience itself was slightly anticlimactic because our judges took it easy on us. Like and Sally too. We were ready to go into battle. I was expecting some super intense questions and I was ready to give it all up for my client and my case, but that did not happen at all. So yeah, and then just watching my friends do the moot, it was really fun. I'll insert a picture here if Sally allows me and gives me her consent to be on the internet. But yeah, that was awesome. And then I've just been studying for finals this week. I'll be done 1L April 21st, I believe. So that's up ahead. And what else has been going on? I went to see the Northern Lights, which was crazy. Like I never expected that would be a thing that I would do, and it was a magical experience. We drove out like 25 minutes out of town and we set camp on this beautiful like frozen lake and just witnessed the magic of the Northern Lights, and that was really, really incredible. And yeah, that's about it. Just grinding away, getting ready to move back to Vancouver for the summer, which has been a really exciting, fun thought, and enjoy my hot girl single summer there. So yeah, that's what's going on. But anyway, back to some bookish chats. Like I said, did do my usual bookstore circuit in Vancouver, and I walked away with some treasures, so yay. I will start off with the two that I have read already. The first one being Tides by Sarah Freeman. And I saw this ages ago, actually, at Pulp Fiction Books, which is one of my favorite used bookstores on Main Street, if you are familiar. And I saw this ages ago, and I was there in February, and they still had this. And I was like, this is meant to be. And it was $10. Hardcover, and it's the cutest little size. And I was completely drawn by the very first little page or like snippet here, and I'll read it to you. On the long bus journey out, she doesn't cry or even have a single thought that she can name. She watches the dark impossibility of the road instead, the mostly empty seats ahead of her, the head of a woman, few rows up, listing forwards and then jolting back. She does not sleep. She wants to be awake to make her declaration at the border. She will show her passport and then they ask, where to? ? She will say without hesitation, the sea. Does that remind you of anything? I read that and I was like, is this like the sequel to The Seas, aka my favorite book ever? And it did not disappoint. This was beautiful. I don't understand why I haven't heard more people talk about this other than the lovely Julie from Linen Librarian, who actually introduced me to this book, and so that's why the cover looked familiar, but I vaguely I had some vague recollection of what this book was about. But yeah, as soon as I read that initial opener, I was like, I'm done. Like, here are my $10. I'm going to go and just read this in one sitting. And it was absolutely stunning. There are some parallels between this book and The Seas in the best way possible, although the narrator in this book in particular is much more refined, much more unsparing, and just super sharp. Like, I was completely blown away with the depth of this narrator, and obviously Sarah Freeman's writing I thought was incredible. Really, really evocative, made me feel so many things. We are following a woman that is escaping her life in Canada, crosses the border that she's talking about. She's coming from, I think, Quebec, and she's going to the States to escape the life that she was living in Canada, and just jumping into the unknown after having a miscarriage, going through grief. She is undoing aspects of her personality that she now associates with another life and another human being, and wanting to start completely fresh. And there's just beautiful sea imagery and really gorgeous prose about, yeah, just like her psyche and the ways that she views the world, her desires for what's next, for what it means to be in exile, like voluntary exile. And yeah, I absolutely loved it. Although you might hate this because it is in the beloved fragmentary style a la Jenny Awful. So if you're not a fan of that, you will not like this whatsoever. But yeah, I really enjoy the fragmentary form because it allows me to connect the dots without everything being like completely like spoon-fed to you. So your brain is actively working and trying to make sense of the little like breadcrumbs that are left, and you have to find your way. And I think it speaks volumes to the quality of the author because they're maximizing their real estate, and every sentence and every word is very intentionally chosen because they don't have the luxury to ramble. So if it's done well, it's incredible. And yeah, I highlighted so many things, so many lines, and yeah, what a little treasure. Absolutely loved this book. Mara will live on in my heart and brain for a long time. I still think about this book, and I read it at the beginning of March, so loved it. Then I read The Beauty of the Husband, and I'm always on the lookout for Anne Carson when I'm at used bookstores. And yeah, I found this guy, fictional essay on 29 tangos. So it is the disentanglement of this woman's marriage and her relationship to her husband and the affair that he has and her POV. I'm not gonna lie to you, this book made me feel like an uncultured swine. So many of it went over my head. I think because I just have absolutely zero background when it comes to classics, because this pulls from Keats' idea that beauty is truth, and it is also the story of a marriage. Well, actually, I already said that, but yeah, it brings in a bunch of figures and philosophers and references that I literally did not understand. So I'm so glad I read it. I think my brain expands whenever I read Anne Carson, and it's a challenging but rewarding read for the most part. This one was not as rewarding, I must say, but I am still happy that I own this because of one line. Sometimes I read books and my general vibe is like, meh, like it was all right. But if there's like a specific sentence or a word that just really took me by surprise or is now ingrained in my head. I will always remember the book and I will always be grateful that I own it. So the line here that makes the purchase of this book super worthwhile is beauty convinces. I really like that. It says, beauty, no great secret, not ashamed to say I loved him for his beauty, as I would again if he came near. Beauty convinces. You know beauty makes sex possible. Beauty makes sex, sex. So yeah, I just really like that. There are some lines in here that make this all worth it. This is another one. His letters, we agree, were highly poetic. They fell into my life like pollen and stained it. Nice, right? Yeah. Anne Carson is somebody that really just wows me and inspires me. And if you happen to come across this and you want to be challenged and not really understand what's going on, would recommend. Then the next one was completely unforeseen, because I was talking about this with a friend, or I was talking about this book with a friend and saying that I'm going to I have like two separate lists. One that involves books that I am likely to find at used bookstores, and then another list of like new releases that's unlikely that I'm going to come across them at a used bookstore. But so anyways, I was telling my friend that I really wanted to buy The Secret History secondhand, and she was like, that's a hugely popular book thanks to the book talk girlies, so I just like doubt that you're going to find it. And I did, for $5. So yeah, I'm stoked to read this. I think this is going to be my reward for finishing school. So I'm going to save this. I initially thought I would torture myself and not read anything until I was done for the rest of March / most of April, but I just didn't want to do that to myself. I love myself too much. But I am kind of restricting and limiting myself because I really wanted to start this, but I want to do this book justice, and I think it'll just be so much sweeter to read this when I'm done, and I can sit for hours on end if I want to. But we all know what this is about. I was 1000% lured into reading this based on Jalen's lovely book club discussion of this. So yeah, I'm just so stoked to have found it in the bookstore that I did, McLeod's in Vancouver, if you're familiar. Just like fits the vibe of this book. And yeah, we all know what this is about, so I'm not going to read you the back or anything, but yeah, stoked to have this in my possession. And then the book that I started last night, which I really, really enjoyed the half an hour that I read in bed on a Saturday night, just how I like it, is Funny Weather by Olivia Lang. I was in the mood for nonfiction, curiously, but I didn't want anything too heavy. So I didn't start The Right to Sex, which I've decided that I want to purchase a copy for myself rather than reading my library copy after, watching Pato's just incredible review, because I want to be able to underline and go back to certain passages if I feel the desire to. And yeah, so then I remembered that I had this, and it really just was scratching that itch. So yeah, that is all I have read and purchased as of late. Oh no, actually that's a lie. I also finished Rehearsals for Living by Leanne Badasamasake Simpson, and oh my gosh, what's the other? Maynard is the last name, but I'm forgetting the other author. God, that's embarrassing. I'll insert a picture here. And I did that as a buddy read, which I'm horrible at buddy reads. So Colleen, I'm so sorry. But I did it with the lovely Colleen. She's got a booktube channel of her own. Absolutely delightful. I will link it downstairs. Go and support her lovely bookish endeavor, and the more the merrier. Anyways, yeah, so we read that together, and I really enjoyed my reading experience. It was a nostalgic read for me because it reminded me of the kinds of conversations that I was having all throughout my undergrad and exploring racial injustice and particularly colonial violence. And it was a beautiful joint effort to highlight the connection between the Indigenous struggle as well as Black struggle, and coming together and finding points of like communion and collective strength in fighting the collective oppressor, but also a very sincere and honest perspective. They didn't pretend to have all of the answers, and they were so vulnerable in their concerns for the future and what the scary initial months of COVID were and what they were thinking at that time. And it's like this perfect little time capsule of life during the beginning stages of the pandemic and what that looked like for organizers and activists, and ways that they managed to engineer to still come together and resist and find community in a virtual sense. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I actually didn't say what the book was about. Sorry. It is a conversation between these two academics and activists. One of them is Indigenous and the other one is Black, and just sharing their experiences, what they're thinking about, what they're processing. The book is very referential, so they're bringing in the voices of Octavia Butler, of Angela Davis, of Audre Lorde, and sources of inspiration for these women. So yeah, it's just a conversation. They're exchanging letters, and you are essentially the nosy bitch who hacked into their email and are reading their correspondence and absorbing all of their knowledge and wisdom via osmosis. That's essentially what the form of the book is. So yeah, really enjoyed it. It was really lovely to be able to even just briefly to talk to Colleen about it. I wish we literally could have done like a FaceTime moment. But hopefully I'll have a lot more time to do that sort of thing in the summer. So just another thing to look forward to. But yeah, that is all I've got for you today. You have been dearly missed. I hope you're doing well. Let me know what you've been doing and what you've been reading. And until next time, bye.